So one of the other things that I wanted to talk about today with you is called the Dunder methods. And the Dunder methods are special things that we can use and not levitate, uh, exploit. That's not the right word. Um, just use for us that Python has kind of set up already for us first to be able to use. So let's learn about Dunders in this module. Like I said earlier, Dunders are special methods that Python has implemented in order for us to be able to use and do some customization to our classes. And so there's already default behavior there, but we can override them to do that. So for example, how would you know if two instances of a class are equal to each other? How would you define that? And we'll kind of look at that. One of the things that we've already explored is the Dunder str one, where you can change what's printed out to the console when you print out a class instance and be able to see a little bit something easier to understand. And we also talked about context managers. At the end of module 5, we talked about how the enter and exit Dunders can be used and explored similar to file editing and kind of going through with that. So let's drop into our Visual Studio Code and do a quick example of what some of these Dunders are, how to use them, and then where to look further for more details about these Dunders and start working with them. So I've got my scratch pad here, and let's just create a person class here. And very simply, we're just going to do something like this, where you're going to have a name, you're going to have an age, actually, let's do a birth date, and then let's do, let's see here, name and birth date, and we'll just leave it at that. How about that? So self.name is equal to birth date, or sorry, not birth date, the name, and self.birth date is equal to birth date. And then what we're going to do is we're going to do something special about this. Actually, we'll just start with this. So how would we know if two people have, are the same? So for example, let's see what kind of happens. Let's drop into our Python, and I'm going to create a James 1, and that's going to be a person, and their name is going to be James, and their birth date is going to be, I don't know, 06 23 78 or 79. Yeah, how about 79? 79, like that. They're old. Person is not divided. It could help if I actually imported the person that's in there. Now let's try this. All right, so James 2 is going to be equal to the same thing here. Two, 3, 7, 9. Boom. Is James 1 equal to James 2? No, it's not. But they have the same attributes. Everything about them is exactly the same. Well, how would we do that? Like, how would they should be the same? We would expect them to be the same. Well, that's how we can use some of these specials Dunders. So remember, we've already kind of used a Dunder before. We used the init, and we're covering that. So now let's learn another one, and that's the equals one. So Dunder EQ, Dunder, and we're going to do self and other. So this is a comparison, and basically what we're going to do is this. If self.name is equal to other.name, then and self.birthday is equal to other dot birthday, then return true. Otherwise, return false. Right? And we will do that to see, like this. And let's quit out, call our thing. We're going to do from scratchpad import person, James1 is equal to this, James2 is equal to that. Are they the same? They are. Ta-da! All right. And so what you can do is you can kind of use this to define what your types of equality are. Some of the other ones that you might have are situations like this. LTE, which is less than or equal to. That's in there. Actually, yeah, did I do that? GDE, yeah, less than or equal to. That's in there. So you've got that one that's less than or they're equal to. You've got greater than. That's in there. So there's a whole slew. There's a lot of these different Dunders that you can work with in there. One of the other things that I kind of want to show with you is what if this other that's being compared to there. So let's say I'm going to say James1 is equal to 1. Right? We're going to get an error. It's like, hey, wait, you're trying to compare an int that doesn't have an attribute name, so your other is what's going on here. Well, what we can do is instead do if not is instance other and person, then we're going to return false. And what does this do? Well, this makes sure this instance will see, is this other an instance of the person class? And if it is, then this will return true. Well, we want the opposite of that. So we're going to return a not of this. So we check to make sure that these two are the same. If they're not, then we automatically just return false, right? So this should work now the way that we had it. James1. James2, and we're going to do James1 is equal to 1, and we see that that's now returning a false because we're checking to make sure that these conditions are there. So this is really a quick rundown of the Dunders. There's a lot of different things. If you go back to module 5 and learn about the enter and exit, that's one. We talked about str already. There's a whole bunch of others that I would highly recommend that you just check out and look at in the Python documentation linked above. And so, actually, let me go back to this. 3, 2. So I'm not going to cover all of the Dunders in this module because there's just so many that are out there. But I highly recommend you look at the documentation and check that out for what specific type of thing that you do. And I'm going to try to put a link up above here. If not, I'll have it like static, or I'll put it down in comments below or something. I don't know, whatever it works. In any case, I'll link the documentation for you so that you can be able to see what the different Dunders there are out there and kind of what your specific needs may be for that. And so that's Dunders.